this side. Always a line trying to pull out. The new Shaw Family Park over there, we have a lot more traffic going to that now. A lot of people walk there. The splash pad, we're really happy that's in our part of the town, but at the same time, there's a lot more traffic. During the school year, there's a huge concern with the traffic on Carey Smith going to the Willis Shaw Elementary School. You've got cars and buses coming through there. The potholes there, they've been fixed many times, but after this year's winter and spring rains, you can fix them, and it's still just really rough to pull in there. So if you're coming down 112 and the speed limit's 55 and cars are behind you going 55, I mean, you've got to really slow down to be able to pull in there. From 8 o'clock, from 7:30 to 9:30 in the morning, and then in the afternoons from 2:30 to 6:30, with the highway and with the schools, you almost just can't get out. In our neighborhood, most of us have tried to find some alternative routes to get out, but those roads weren't meant for heavy traffic, like Kelly Road, Robbins Road that goes down in front of Ecclesia. Those are gravel now. After the winter and after the spring rains, they're strictly just gravel now. And then, we noticed down the street at Harbor, there is a stoplight, and there's not hardly any traffic there. And there's not a busy road on the other side of that intersection, where we have two busy roads. We do realize that, the plans are there to widen 112, but that's going to take a while. And we don't want to wait that long until there are serious accidents there. I know stoplights are expensive. Any other alternatives? Four-way stop. Just, we really need some help out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Kurt, you went out there, I believe, to take a look at it during the peak hour. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. And I can see that being a very dangerous intersection to come in and out of. But I even drove around where you can come back out on a couple other streets.
Mm-hmm.
I think White Street was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But none of those streets all the way down there are good to come out. They're all pretty.
We try them. I mean,
Why
we
the-
try
why the-
every
why the
alternate
side is
route to not
forward.
go through there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's right on the fence and being overgrown and the real estate sign, and it's very hard to see. If
Right.
anything, I would recommend people just turn right off of those streets. If you're trying to cross traffic, that's really difficult. You're almost better off turning right and going down some other direction, and then make a U-turn or turn around somehow at a safer neighborhood, safer area.
In town where it's or something.
That being a state highway, that would involve the State Department
Yes.
to warrant having an intersection there.
Right. Right. Did you have a question?
I'm Julie Flynn. In answer to your recommendation of going right and that there are other streets, one thing I would say that our situation is different. Those other streets have better visibility. Like if we come out Water Avenue, yes, we have better visibility. One thing we're not addressing here is that the 612 is right there. That's another reason why the traffic is so heavy there. And if nothing else, the speed limit needs to be enforced to about 35 miles an hour through that 612 to almost that Elm Springs corner area because of how heavy that traffic is used, people getting onto that 612. That is what makes our situation a little bit unique. And I don't know if you can talk to the owners of that property to move that fence. But the other thing I have found interesting is, yes, they have fixed some of those potholes, but they never fix all of them. There's like one that they will patch, and then the rest of them are all still there. So you have to be so careful and slow down so much to turn onto that road that it is a hazard. And someone is going to get seriously hurt if no one takes they need to pay attention to this and take some action on it. And we can't just do something makeshift before someone gets killed there.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Patsy Fox, and one of my big concerns is during the election years, there's huge signs put up on that fence. It is, you have to almost get up. I mean, it's just dangerous right there. And first thing needs to be done is whoever owns that property, they need to have to make sure it's not grown up and they don't put big signs up. That's one of the immediate things that needs to take place.
The
Okay.
55 mile an hour is just so dangerous right there.
Okay. Is there anybody making a request to code enforcement to make sure that, I'm speaking to the committee, making a request to code enforcement to see if that can be better maintained in that area? As far as getting them to move the sign, that's a lot more difficult because it is technically on private property. So we wouldn't really have much of a say in that. If we were to go that far, it could be a request, but it wouldn't be anything that's enforceable.
Right.
But as far as maintaining the area, making sure the grass is mowed, is there a request, Megan, or somebody we can send to code enforcement to check that area to make sure it is maintained?
We can ask code enforcement to go out there and make sure that the sight lines are clear and there's no debris in the way, but I mean, that would be the extent of what code enforcement could do with the fence. I do know in another area of town, the intersection of Pleasant and Mays, there was a fence that caused a large conflict with being able to see to turn left off of Mays, and code enforcement had them go out and move it a certain amount. Now it's angled to improve better visibility for those who are turning off that street. So we could request something along the same nature. If it's within, city right of way, we can ask them to scoot it back if it is.
And we would move forward with that as a committee, but that's something we can let code enforcement know, but that really just addresses the immediate concerns. Did you have another question?
I was just gonna say, if you go look at it right now, they did just recently mow that, but it is not done on a regular basis.
Okay, all right.
If a signal is out of the question, is there any way to get a four-way stop?
A four-way stop would involve discussions with RDOT on that, since it is a highway, and the stop would pertain to the Highway 112 side. Given the conditions around that and when it's proposed to be redone and widened, which is, from what they say, 2023 is when they would plan to begin, with completion in 2025. I don't know how agreeable they would be to that. Some immediate things we could do is we could perform a traffic count and a traffic study of that intersection to see what volumes and what speeds we're dealing with on all four legs, and from that, request a warrant study be done through RDOT. But again, these are measures taken from the state side. As far as what say we have in it is very little.
Even the stop signs that are there are the state stop signs,
Right.
because they control access onto their state highway.
And after getting a warrant study, if it is warranted even, is another budget discussion through the city, because the city would be the one to pay for a signal there. Kurt, were you the one that emailed me saying it would be about $150,000 approximately for?
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe we could
So it would be
do
a major.
something to simplify it. I'm thinking of just like telephone poles with span wire and do some kind of a temporary type intersection.
So even if it was warranted through RDOT, getting it budgeted through the city and then installed, it might be about the same time frame as by the time they begin construction, by 2023. So that's just
So
something we
basically,
would.
we have no options out there. We're just
well, I
You could
mean,
ask the state to reduce the speed limit through that section, but that's state too.
right, if, like you said, if it would go from 612 down to Elm Springs, a different speed limit, that would be a request through RDOT because it is their highway to lower that speed limit. We don't have a say on what the speed limit is in that section.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do we personally have to make that request, or do we make it through you?
I believe speed limits would be requests through the property owners. With the traffic study done on our side that we do, I wouldn't mind having that discussion with RDOT, but it might ultimately be something that's done through the residents.
One thing I would say about the traffic study, that needs to, if you were going to do it like right now, that's one thing, but it needs to be done when school's going on.
Right, we would do that during school.
Yes, thank
That's
you.
when we do all of
Yeah.
our traffic counts. We don't do them over the summer. All right, are there any other discussions to be had on this topic? Yes, ma'am.
So if I'm to understand what you're telling me, we need to make a request to RDOT, would be our next step in action.
Right, for the
For
speed
the
limit.
speed limit to be lowered.
If they say anything contrary to what we discussed today, please let us know. If they say it needs to come through the city, please let us know. Because I'm getting speed limits changed, I'm not aware of the process on a state highway other than that, unless anybody else knows differently.
I didn't
Benton
know-
County, right?
That is Benton County, yes.
You want their phone number?
Okay, that's RDOT?
Yeah, Benton County RDOT is 870-743-2100.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And we'll include all this discussion within the minutes as well, and we'll send that out
But
to
you will
everybody.
present this to them as well?
After we're through with our traffic counts out there and traffic study, yes,
Okay,
we will bring it to their attention.
thank you,
But
thank you.
again, I don't know how much of a say we have, given the construction timeline out there, too.
Right.
Is all,
Okay, so, but, okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to take up more of your time, but will this committee make any, just even a request of the property owner to open up our visibility there?
that's something that would have to go through code enforcement, but,
That
well,
would go through who?
code enforcement, they're a different department within the city.
Okay.
Is it called code enforcement, or is it neighborhood services?
It's neighborhood services.
So will someone do that?
I will reach out to them when we leave here to verify that, one, that corner is clear, and two, that that fence is not within city right-of-way. If it is, we can request them to scoot it back, and that may improve the visibility.
Yes, it would greatly. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
All right. Is there any other discussion on this? All right, thank you all. Okay, we have, I'm not sure if Abby Clinton is here, request for change in speed limit, control measures within Spring Creek subdivision. We're on Zoom, nope. Okay. And next, we have a request to remove 4 protected bike lane markers from Dick Smith Road by Bob Collier. Bob, if you'd like to kind of go over this item.
Are you going to pull that up?
Yes, I will.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
A little bit of help.
There you go.
That's the only option you have a lot of times. I had someone.
I
with
believe it
road
shows
rage.
this on Street View too, so I'll go ahead and,
Road rage.
Yeah,
Go there.
that's it.
yep. Let me look.
If you can do the overhead, it'd be better.
Oh, okay.
But she's,
Okay.
Okay. For people not familiar, Dick Smith is a street going up and down. Rockburn is a street going left and right, if you can't read it. Okay. The trail we're talking about is, forget, but it goes right by my house.
Dean's Trail,
Dean's Trail Phase 1.
right.
Oh, okay. The dark line on the right is the southbound trail. The dark line across the corner is the northbound trail. The trail runs the complete length of Dick Smith up almost to 412. In the middle, between the two dark lines, there are two commonly referred to as, my wife calls them slugs, other people call them armadillos. It's a big hunk of plastic about the size of an armadillo, and it's solid. Stands about this high, about this long. There's two of them there. When you get to the right on Rockburn, there's two more. Rockburn isn't even part of the trail. Why they're there, I have no idea. When they put the four slugs in there, they narrowed the drive lane on the turn from 9.5 feet to 9 feet. I don't know of a car one, including the traffic safety officer who lives on Rockburn, that stays in his lane. They all avoid those bumpers with serious concern, as they ought to, because it'll ruin your front end. The two on Rockburn I've always mentioned have any viable reason for being there with relation to bikes on the trail, because the bikes don't even go on Rockburn. The two between the north and south trails, the only thing they appear to do is narrow the turn lane. They don't protect any bikers whatsoever. Now you can say, well, the traffic needs to slow down. There's a stop sign at the intersection on both streets. So if you're turning right off Rockburn onto Dick Smith, you have to stop. If you're turning left on Dick Smith onto Rockburn, you have to stop before you leave. I don't understand why those stupid things are there and request they be removed. If somebody brings up safety, well, I don't think that's a viable reason anymore, because the city's road crew knocked off a dozen plus of them on Dick Smith when he took off snow back in November, December, and they still haven't been replaced. So safety's not a concern to the city. I just want them removed.
Okay. Is there any argument against removing these four armadillos at this intersection, given that it is a stop from both directions?
You have to stop at Dick Smith to turn left?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Who would be in charge of removing those?
I would be.
Okay. Can we go ahead and get those four removed?
Yes.
All right. If there's no concern about that, then we'll get those removed.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bob. All right. If there's no one else here to present any other items, we can just go over the rest of the items we didn't cover on the agenda. The first one being a discussion of speeding and a stop sign at Maple and Pleasant by Patrick Hall. This came to us with a very long email. Megan, do you want to say something?
Mr. Hall is actually on vacation, so he wasn't able to be here today. What I am doing is requesting engineering to go out and conduct a speed study of this area, and we will be able to give those results to Mr. Hall when he attends the August meeting.
Okay.
And I've already made the request to
Yes.
Carl.
And I would like to, as part of that, traffic counts not only on Pleasant on both sides of Maple, but on Maple
But
itself
on
as
Maple,
well.
correct.
Because if there's a stop sign consideration to be made there, it has to do with traffic volumes coming off of Maple to give them right of way, rather than just speeds alone. As I mentioned before, I think that actually this would be better counted if school was in session, because I feel like we're going to get more accurate numbers for the rest of the year when school is in session.
But there's quite a few people over there because of the park and the aquatic center and the library. I mean, we travel that way a lot, and there is a lot of traffic over there now without school. So with school, it could even be higher.
All right, well, we can go ahead and do a initial traffic count. If it doesn't meet any need, if it doesn't meet a reason to have a stop sign there, we can conduct another one while school is in session, but we can go ahead and set counts there now. Is there a schedule for counters to be placed here, or? Okay, all right, so we'll go ahead and move forward with that and then present to him our results in the August meeting.
You go that way a lot. How many times do you have to sit at Maple and wait for 10 minutes before you can pull out? Traffic going 20 miles an hour. I
And
never
that's-
have to wait there.
And
I
that's
mean-
part of the consideration is people.
Not often, but I do happen to know that quite a few speeding tickets are written in that area.
I think it's because it's 20 miles an hour for such a long stretch.
I mean, a couple of them are pretty high. I mean, there is a lot of traffic over there, and I know that there's a lot of higher speed traffic over there because that's one of the areas I've spoken to someone about.
That
We've
road's
talked to
pretty-
Mr. Hall a bunch about this.
Pretty wide, especially down in front of the library and the school, but,
Right.
or the aquatic center, but
And Mr. Hall did say that consideration of a higher speed limit, he would want us to take consideration of that too. So even though it is 20, does it need to be 20? I mean, that's,
I think in the summer, when you got the aquatic center open and the park, in the winter, maybe not.
right.
Go through that section, but you're not gonna go out and change signs.
Yeah, you have the bike lanes ending on Maple right there too. But the width of that street going through there is 37 feet wide from curb to curb. So that is extremely wide. And people will tend to drive what they feel regardless of the speed limit. So,
Maybe we ought to narrow that road down.
well, there you go. All right.
Not an on-street bike lane, no. Putting a new curb in and then the bike lane on the sidewalk next to the library and in front of the aquatic center.
There you go.
That'd be fine.
That's a budget item. Okay. The next item we have on here is request to change the right turn lane at the intersection of 40th and Sunset to a through and right turn lane. That was brought to us by Councilman Harriman. I can go ahead and go to that street light on here.
The reason it's a right turn only is because the councilman brought it through the committee years ago. It was,
And I believe it was always, I mean, as far back as our aerial imagery will go, it was striped as a right turn only lane.
Was it?
From what I can tell, and
I
that's,
thought we changed it to a right turn only lane back in like 2005 or 2006 or something. And it
That
was,
might be it.
it was the councilman that works at the school, Jim.
he brought it to us.
Kurt, you did send us turning movement counts.
Yes. I
Yeah.
didn't know if you could bring those up or not, but
I can bring those up too.
there are so many turners right there. What's gonna happen is one person's gonna pull up to go straight, and all that traffic's gonna back up when they could have been turning right.
And then
You're just gonna back
that,
traffic
when you
up
get across there, that
down.
lane ends not too far away and people like to race to be in front of the line.
I think the main reason for the double lane on the north side of the intersection is so right turners could make a right off of Sunset and then merge into that single lane traffic.
I know it's on there. Okay, here we go. I got it. Okay, so and the concern is southbound only, not northbound. To change the northbound right turn only lane to through, because it also has a receiving end to the north of Sunset as 2 lanes, but immediately goes back down to 1.
Right.
On the south side, it has receiving 2 lanes, and then it goes about a quarter mile, or half a mile, and then goes down to 1.
Right
It
at the
goes
school
past
zone.
The shopping center, it goes past the apartments, it goes past the school zone, and then it turns back down to 1 lane.
Right.
But according to our, good grief.
The request as it's written is the north side only.
But according to our traffic counts on the southbound 40th Street, you have right turns of 2,200 cars per day and through of 2,100. So in this case, the amount of people making right turns per day is more than people going through the intersection. And I know this was brought to us even recently before about making that a through lane there as well. But given that percentage, is there anybody here who has an argument for making it 2 through? Okay. All right. I know Arkansas doesn't really have, to my knowledge, warrants for right turn only lanes, but comparing to other states, that number is pretty much on par with hourly traffic volumes to warrant a right turn lane. So for those reasons, unless anyone thinks otherwise, we can keep that a right turn only lane given these numbers.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Megan, can you make sure to write on there that we'll follow up with the councilman discussion? Just make sure he knows about everything we discussed and the reasoning behind it.
I think if he sees those numbers, I think most people don't realize how much traffic is really going through there.
Mm-hmm. And it's good we had this available to pull up, so. All right, the next item we have, which I'll go ahead and mention it since it's on the agenda. It was from Beck Campbell, request to change the straight through lane at Don Tyson Parkway and Thompson to right turn only. So here's reversed from the other item. Instead of having it a through lane, it would be a right turn only lane, meaning you would only have 1 through lane going east.
At Don Tyson and what?
Thompson.
Thompson. Yeah, you also have the numbers for those too, right?
Which
And
it
I-
showed a massive
I-
amount of people going through versus the right turn.
Yes.
Right. And Kurt, did you talk to Beth on this one?
Yes, I did, and she, after I told her what kind of figures and numbers we had, she said she fully understands why we don't do that.
Okay. I know there was discussion in the past somewhere about possibly
That-
adding a right turn only lane.
That
at
would be
intersection.
ideal, but we can't afford to get rid of a through
Yeah.
lane right there.
Right. It wouldn't come at getting rid of one of the 2 through lanes. It would be an additional lane, but there's issues like utilities and right-of-way that goes into consideration of that. And it's not currently budgeted, so.
And you have the same situation, except once the traffic begins to move, those right turners are able to turn off just as fast as the people going through. So it really
Okay.
doesn't take a lot of time away from them, but the majority of them are definitely going straight.
I use that intersection a lot because I have to turn right to go home there. And I've never really had an issue.
Okay. All right, so that ends the agenda for this month. Did we have Well, it was review the minutes, right? To review. Did June minutes.
No, we have one more item. It's a request to change the speed limit and speed control measures within Spring Creek subdivision.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. Did we have Abby's email about that? I didn't think it was in here. Okay. I can't open emails on this.
Okay. The email was from Miss Clinton to Brad Baldwin. She says she lives at 4660 Corey Street in Spring Creek subdivision off of Wagon Wheel west of I-49. There are a lot of small children that live in the subdivision and even some police officers. The problem is that everyone, including the police officers, speed down on down the roads. What can we do to get the speed limit lowered? Right now it's 25 miles an hour, and a few speed bumps put in place to help the speed of traffic.
So while I'm pulling this up, I can open that up for discussion if anybody has anything to say on that. So it's this subdivision right here, I believe. That is to the west of Wagon Wheel, southwest side of Wagon Wheel. And the issue is speeding. Did we get a street in particular, or is it just all of the
She lives on
subdivision?
Corey in particular.
Corey Street, okay, as you first enter this subdivision, it's this segment of road right here. According to our master street plan, locals like this street are marked at 25 miles an hour. That's our standard. But if we want to go ahead and have a count of this section to get the actual speeds, we can put that on the schedule, but it would probably be a little while because we have made commitments on counts so far in this meeting. So we can check it to see if we see anything unusual. But in the meantime, we can't simply change the speed limit right now.
I don't know if you could with traffic counts, could you? I mean, posted at 25 and they're driving 40, they're probably still gonna drive 40 if it's posted at 20.
Right. Right. And it's back to that argument of how does the road feel? Like, what does the speed feel like? And that's what we typically see people driving.
Are they referring to the road outside the subdivision or the one inside the subdivision?
It's inside. The other one's Wagon Wheel Road.
Okay.
There was no request on that one to change the speed. Okay. So, let's see. Going to the June minutes, did we have, I didn't see that listed here in the June folder.
Those are the items from the June minutes that still need action.
Okay. So the traffic study results from Apple Blossom, I don't think I've seen those in particular. I don't remember those being sent out. I know a trailer, speed trailer with the display.
PD was gonna put some out there.
Okay. I don't guess anything, the results from that are back. I know it was the one that posted the speed and I think flashed if you were going too fast, if I remember correctly.
The police department was supposed to place the trailer on Thursday, June 3rd.
Okay.
It got placed a little bit later than that, so the numbers are not back in yet.
Okay.
Great.
All right. I think the gentleman's concern was just to have the speed sign out there for a little while. Traffic study results from Deering Road. This was brought to us by Mark Brewer in the last meeting. We did get the traffic results back. I don't guess they were in the folder. I didn't see them.
I never received them.
Carl, do you want to kind
Out of
of
your email?
give a brief, I can't access email on this. Can you give a brief summary of what the traffic study showed?
I think on average, we had about anywhere from 800 to 1,000 cars a day coming through that street. And he was complaining about a lot of speeding vehicles on that street. And from the traffic counts, it showed that the 85th percentile speed was around 30, I believe it was 38 miles per hour. So that's a little fast for this subdivision.
And with the 85th percentile traffic going 38 miles an hour, that is well above the posted speed limit of 25. This is considered a local, and that is quite a bit above. That receives maximum points from our traffic calming policy for speed alone. It gets more because there's no sidewalks there. The daily traffic gets it so many more points, and I think there were a few reported crashes on this road, or wrecks on this road, if I remember correctly. So that gets it more points, and it actually meets a level 3 measure, a consideration for this road, and that can be a variety of devices.
What are those?
That it does include speed bumps, chicanes, things like that. So, I did speak about this issue with the Director of Public Works. He said that at this time, consideration for speed bumps or speed tables could be put into the 2022 Public Works budget, but that is something that needs to be approved by council and the mayor. So that's a consideration to make on this. I know Mr. Brewer also mentioned the option of the neighborhood paying for these, but since he's not here to speak to that, we'll proceed as discussed with the Public Works Director. So that's something we can have out there. Is there any debate on this issue?
I have a question. If they're gonna put that into the 2022 budget, can't they put, like, widening that road?
To widen it?
It's just a question. I don't know anything about, yeah, to make it a wider road so that people can use it to go through, other than going all the way up to 412. There is a, what, 600 apartments right there, and then a ball field.
Right. But that kind of gets into the current classification of the street. It's
Right.
not a minor collector or above. It's
That's what
this is strictly a local.
That's what I'm asking. Can you make it a minor collector?
That would have to be changed and approved through council separately from the budget. So that might be something we consider on a future master street plan, but as of right now, we don't have anything to go off of, any plan to go off of that says that needs to be above a local. The way it operates might be different than that, but that's just what we have to go off of right
I think
now.
when those apartments get in, you'll have more than 1,000 cars a day.
Right. And with future projects going forward, at some time, hopefully within the next 5 years or so, Don Tyson will have a connection to 112 at a roundabout south of here. 64th Street will go all the way down as a boulevard, so that would reduce the traffic flow through this particular neighborhood. But until that happens, it's us considering what else can be done. Jim, last meeting, the chief indicated that he didn't see an issue with having some sort of level 3 on this. Do you see any issues with that?
It is a route that can be used, but it's not a primary route.
Okay. Just like the Buckhead issue, this is something that needs to be discussed at the top to make sure everyone is on the same page, because it's not something we've really done before. So it could be proposed in the budget, but it needs to be approved as well. So that's just caveat to everything I've just said. Does anybody else have any questions on this?
I just think once you approve those speed bumps there on that street, I think you're opening up a can of worms for all the other streets in Springfield.
Right, but it did go through our traffic calming policy as that. It did meet the criteria for it, given the data we collected. So on some others, we don't see that the traffic counts support that. But this was different.
And narrowing it like you did Emma wouldn't be an option? Since there's no curb and gutter on that north side?
Right.
Like adding that and narrowing that road down
That's
there?
a different discussion, is narrowing it. That would go along with the level 3 measure as well. That's what the curb chicanes kind of do. They narrow the road at certain points in an effort to lower the speed. If that's something that we feel should be included in the budget instead, that would be our recommendation. But that's, again, something that would be discussed, all options on the table with level 3 measures. So if we have a particular recommendation for this, or just to say we recommend a level 3 measure to be discussed and approved at a later time, that's our decision. So is there a particular measure in mind that someone would want to propose here?
But I would put traffic tables at the bottom of the list, however you make the list. That's just me, though.
Okay. All right. Is there, until we hear from Mr. Brewer on his side, is there any argument against just narrowing the street as part of the next budget instead of doing speed bumps?
The residents of that area did request in writing speed tables or speed cushions. The emails that were provided to the committee, every single one of them mentioned some sort of iteration of a speed table.
Yeah, he also requested curb on the north side of the road, too.
Right. In
'Cause he said
addition
the
to
asphalt-
speed tables, or?
Because he said the asphalt keeps falling off there and they got to keep repairing it, so they're going to put curbs on it.
Okay.
But if they're going to pay for it, I guess it doesn't matter.
That's further discussion that we're unsure of right now. So until we hear otherwise, we can just go ahead and recommend a level 3 measure. Whatever that might be could be determined later if it's included in budget. So that would be a discussion to have at budget time. So if there's no issues with that, we can just recommend the level 3 measure for this street. Okay. Pedestrian counters on Lakeview, have those been placed yet? I know we were working on it.
Those have been placed, and they're counting currently.
Counting, okay. Is there a time that we're going to pull those?
I think 2 weeks, so that will be,
Okay,
I'll go ahead and pull that off. Got them started mid last week, so I'll pull them mid next week.
okay, all right. We'll take a look at those as those come in. If that gets through the last month's minutes, is there anybody else that has anything that they'd like to discuss as part of this meeting? Okay, hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.